Good morning, respected dignitaries, esteemed faculty members, staff, distinguished guests, and dear students, and one and all present here. It's indeed an honor to welcome you all to the 11th late Professor Suresh Tendulkar Memorial Lecture hosted by Symbiosis School of Economics. The annual event stands as a tribute to the legacy of the late Professor Suresh Tendulkar, a towering figure in the field of economics whose invaluable contribution continue to shape economic thought and policy making in India. The initiative was the brainchild of Professor Jyoti Chandiramani, Director SSE. When the master's program was launched at SSE in 2011, Professor Jyoti had hoped to invite Professor Tendulkar as an academic mentor. But after his untimely demise, the idea of an annual lecture series was then proposed by ma'am as a tribute. The first lecture took place in 2014, marking the realization of this tribute to the late professor's legacy. The Suresh Tendulkar Memorial Lecture is a prestigious platform that brings in together scholars, policymakers, and students to engage in the meaningful discussion on the contemporary economic issues. Through this lecture series, we aim to uphold Professor Tendulkar's vision of fostering rigorous economic research and policy dialogue that can contribute to the sustainable and inclusive development. Over the years, STML has hosted distinguished economists who have enriched our understanding of the global and regional economic dynamics, making this event an essential part of our academic discourse. So to commence this proceeding, I would like to invite Professor Jyoti Chandiramani and Professor Selim Raihan on the stage, please. We welcome you, sir. Ma'am, may I please request you to kindly take the stage and give the welcome remark.
A very good morning to one and all present here today. To our distinguished chief guest, key speaker, Professor Selim Raihan. Sir, warm welcome to Symbiosis School of Economics. Warm welcome to Pune. And we are all here to hear you wax eloquently on the topic for today. Thank you so much. A warm welcome to the students for this double program of the Suresh Tendulkar Memorial Lecture, as well as the 17th annual day. I keep feeling that we have a karmic connect with Professor Tendulkar. We see his blessings with us at SSE over the years. The very fact that every time I called somebody to come and give a guest lecture or to come and give the Tendulkar Memorial Lecture, this was absolutely, I mean, whether it was Subir Gokan, whether it was Bibek Debroy, whether it is Selim Raihan, he didn't even hesitate. And they just said, yes, we are there for you and we are going to be there. Unfortunately, out of the 11 Suresh Tendulkar Memorial Lecture that we have, we've also had Professor Subir Gokan, a student of Professor Tendulkar, and Bibek Debroy. Both of them have unfortunately passed away over the years, but their speeches, their legacy, what they spoke remains with us. Professor Tendulkar had a connect with Pune. He did his bachelor's from none other than BMCC College, which is not even a kilometer down the road from SSE. In 1990s, he came there to give a talk in the post-economic reform period, around 94, 95, and that's the first time I met him. And then, of course, one kept reading about him in newspapers because poverty was a big issue at that point of time. And then we heard that he was coming to Pune. About Professor Tendulkar, from Pune to Delhi School of Economics, to Harvard, then being a teacher at ISI, then the director of Delhi School of Economics. He's been a member of the expert group on the estimation of proportion and number of poor, member of the 5th Central Pay Commission, Disinvestment Commission, part-time member of the National Statistic Commission, member of the Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Committee. That was in 2004 to 2008, and then the chairperson of the Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council. Professor Tendulkar chaired a committee uh, between 2004 and 2009, which did estimate poverty. He's reworked on it. And his new method for calculating poverty that expanded the definition beyond mere caloric intake to include spending on food, education, health, electricity, clothing, etc., is exactly what, I mean, of course, it's all been worked upon with respect to the multidimensional poverty index, which has been enhanced over the years. As I mentioned, there is a karmic connect with Professor Tendulkar. Poverty, as I said, is a multidimensional concept and will keep evolving. Though Tendulkar sir's methodology and estimates have had numerous debates. After that, you've had the Rangarajan Committee. And then simultaneously, in 2010-11, you had the multidimensional poverty index, which got evolved. When we look at this, we realize, most of us who do research and work on research projects, that no measure remains constant and it's always evolving and you keep refining it from time to time. Well, when we look at India's data of 2004-5, 37.2% of our population lived below the poverty line as per Tendulkar's estimate. That came down to 29.8% in 2009-10 and 21.9% in 2011-12. I have been studying economics since the 70s and have seen so many such development indicators, from the physical quality life index to the human development index that was introduced by Amartya Sen and Mehbubul Haq, one from India and one from Pakistan. A great thing about South Asia coming together. Then you had the Millennium Development Goals. Then you've had the multidimensional poverty index, which is still being used as a measure for poverty. And then, of course, the Sustainable Development Goals of 2015-17, which is an all-encompassing kind of indicator. And we have to say, Professor Selim, that we are champions of SDGs. We have linked it to our curriculum. We've linked it to our courses, to our program structure, to our research and projects, etc. So I think we're very happy to say that this is something that SSE is a champion about. Well, there are two main issues when we talk about poverty. One is on measurement, and the other is what do we do about it? And while you have the basic income scheme in Europe, which has been tried in varied forms in various countries, it keeps changing because at this moment of the geopolitical framework and countries going in to spend more on defense, the well-being of the people is going to get compromised. And this is something that we have to be mindful about in the next quarter of the 21st century that we are going to go into. Over the years, in the last 2 decades, you have seen that the global financial crisis, the COVID-19, AI and job automation, all these have actually pushed people back under the poverty line. You don't have the numbers keep, if you look at the world poverty clock, you'll see people walking in and walking out of that clock. Very difficult to measure. What do you explain as measurement is something that we have to look at. You have the rising inequalities which are there. You have the World Bank definition of poverty, and that's something that Selim is going to be talking about, so I'm not going to touch upon that. And when we look at the multidimensional poverty index that India has got with 12 indicators, I was just telling Professor Raihan that we do have the central and the state government have schemes which map to education, health, and various such, indicators that are there. If you're talking about banking assets, then you have the Jan Dhan, Aadhaar, and the mobile, the JAM, the Trinity that is there. You have the Swachh Bharat for sanitation. You have something for electricity. But while all that is there, we can see that there has been an improvement. But while improvement has happened, there are still issues like the geopolitical framework, the climate change that has pushed people under poverty line because many of them are going to be vulnerable. And there are going to be, therefore, new pushes that will push people back to poverty or extreme poverty. Given this, backdrop, I just feel I'd like to end my little talk before we go to light the lamp. That Angus Deaton says, good annual surveys, even if not comprehensive, are an insurance against statistical problems. While we've had a certain set of measures in India till 2013-14, and now we have another set of measures. You have the SBI research and the multidimensional poverty index giving different measures which you can't really compare, but nevertheless I think what we observe with the naked eye is very, very important. Given this, today's lecture, which will highlight South Asia's dilemma, growth, poverty, equity, and quest for jobs, is something that we're all waiting to hear. So without further ado, and without me being more in between you and Professor Raihan, and of course the lighting of the lamp, we set the context to today's conversation. And Professor Raihan asked me that will there be a few questions from the students. So, well, 3 good questions will be taken, but we have a long program and looking forward to that. So thank you all. Welcome once again to this last event of the academic year, and I'm sure the best. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for your insightful words and setting the tone for today's session. You have very beautifully traced out the legacy of Professor Suresh Tendulkar and talked about various economic issues that our country is grappling with. Now let us move towards the ceremonial lighting of the lamp, a gesture symbolizing wisdom, knowledge, and removal of darkness. I would like to invite our esteemed guest, Professor Selim Raihan, along with Director Ma'am, Deepa Ma'am, Ishita Ma'am, Niharika Ma'am, and Banali Ma'am on the stage to join us for this moment. Thank you, everyone. Before we proceed further, I would like to request Jyoti Ma'am to felicitate our distinguished guest. I am privileged to introduce to you today the distinguished speaker, Professor Selim Raihan. Professor Selim Raihan is a renowned economist currently serving as a professor at the Department of Economics, University of Dhaka, Bangladesh, and the Executive Director of South Asian Network on Economic Modeling, He holds a PhD from University of Manchester, UK, member of Honorary Research Fellow at the University of Manchester. He possesses vast expertise in empirical research on international trade, economic growth, poverty, labor market, macroeconomic policies, political, political economy, and climate change issues. He has published a number of articles, books, book chapters, and working papers. He is the editor of Thinking Aloud, a monthly digest from SANEM. He regularly writes column in leading English and Bengali dailies in Bangladesh. He has worked for several national and international organizations, including the Asian Development Bank, the World Bank, UNDP, UNESCAP, UNCTAD, IFPRI, the Commonwealth Secretariat, FAO, European Commission, ILO, IDRC, DFID, and many more. He has led and has also been a member of several regional and international research projects on international trade and regional integration issues. His latest edited volume from the Cambridge University Press is on Is the Bangladesh Paradox Sustainable? His insights in research have significantly contributed to the understanding of the intricacies of economic growth, trade policies, and regional cooperation. We are indeed honored to have him with us today for this enlightening lecture. So before I invite sir, may I please request Director ma'am to say a few words and then maybe he delivers his lecture. Okay. May I please invite Professor Selim Raihan to deliver his lecture on South Asia's dilemma, growth, poverty, equity, and quest for job. Welcome, sir.
Which one is this? Or I can use this arrow, no?
Yeah, you can use both this and this.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. My deepest respect to late Professor Suresh Tendulkar and my deep gratitude to Professor Jyoti to invite me to this very special event. I really feel privileged to be here in Pune at the Symbiosis School of Economics and to share some of the thoughts with the very young minds I can see here. I'm really grateful. Thank you, Professor Jyoti. So over the next around 45 to 50 minutes, what I'll be talking about South Asia's dilemma, growth, poverty, equity, and the quest for jobs. I'll try to present to you some of the fundamental questions or thoughts which come to my mind. And also, I may not have all the answers. I don't expect me to give you all the answers, but I really want you to think about it. I think this is something, what is the whole objective of that kind of interaction? And to instigate some ideas among the youth minds so that they can think and they can consider the bigger horizon which is there in front of them. So with this, let me start. So what is the importance of South Asia? Many of us, we know that there's a common history and common legacy of this region. And when it comes to significance at the global level, if you look at the share in global population, approximately 25% of the global population live in South Asia. But when it comes to share in GDP, global GDP, if you look at the current price, take the current price, it's around 4.2%. But when you take the PPP price, purchasing power parity price, it will be around 10% of the global GDP. Also, when it comes to geographical location and also geopolitical importance, we know that there is a geopolitical, geostrategic. This region has become extremely important for many countries around or neighboring, big neighboring countries or outside of this region, North America, Europe. But also we know that when it comes to climate change and environmental challenges, many of the countries in this region are most vulnerable to climate change impacts. And also there are many common issues when it comes to addressing these climate change issues. just to give you a bit of glance on the South Asia, if you look at these 8 countries, what I have presented here in front of you, their share in South Asian total. That means share in population, share in land, and share in GDP. And you can easily see that India obviously has the largest share, around 75% of share in population, around 63% share in land, and again around more than 75% share in the South Asian GDP. And then you can see other countries have some, of course, some lower shares, probably in terms of GDP. Bangladesh appears to be the second largest country in South Asia. But then, of course, in land size, you can see Pakistan probably second to India. But of course, when you look at the last column, the per capita GDP, you see that there are, some degree of divergence. Maldives, with a very small population, has a very high per capita GDP. But other than that, you can see that the countries in South Asia has kind of lowered GDP. And according to if you consider this lower middle income uh, threshold, most of these countries belong to that category. But then the question is, why dilemma? Why I'm talking about this dilemma? Because there is a big mismatch between the success in economic growth and social development in South Asia. When it comes to economic growth, South Asia is the fastest growing region in the world. But when it comes to social development, social progress, still we see slow progress in poverty reduction, rise in inequality, and slow job creation. So this will be the kind of thrust of my presentation today, and I will try to get some nuances, some of the nitty-gritties, and raise some questions, while I make the presentation. But just to remind you at the very beginning that I will talk, from a kind of very broader perspective and looking at the broad pattern and trend. I will cite some country examples where necessary, but I'll stick to broad patterns. But there are definitely some exceptions. There are definitely some counter initiatives to offset some of the trends, negative trends. We will definitely talk about it. I'll try to address those issues. And also I'd like to hear from you, your response. Let's have a look at the growth story. So the red line is South Asia. And I have put this GDP growth rate, annual GDP growth rate since 2000 and until 2023. And you can see South Asia appears on the top above all the region, in terms of annual GDP growth rate. That means the fastest, one of the fastest growing region in the world is South Asia. That is supported by the data. So there is no dispute about this. But when it comes to poverty, still high incidence of poverty. Just to tell you one important thing is that when it comes to poverty estimation, there are some serious problems in South Asia. Because many countries, they don't really have very regular household service to estimate poverty. And at the same time, also there are definitional or conceptual issues related to debates about this poverty. So keeping aside all these things, what World Bank does, World Bank has kind of an unique measurement of poverty, and they apply it for all countries. So let's use these World Bank measures. This is called the poverty headcount ratio at 2.15 day at 2017 purchasing power parity price. And then you can see the percent of population. So the red line is South Asia, and you can see from 2000, of course, that percent of poor people has gone down quite significantly and quite drastically. But the top line is the poverty rate for Sub-Saharan Africa. So after Sub-Saharan Africa, still South Asia has the highest average poverty rate compared to other regions, where here I have compared South Asia with other regions, means East Asia and Pacific, Latin America and Caribbean, Sub-Saharan Africa, and Middle East and North Africa, what we call MENA countries, Middle East and North Africa. So this story gives us kind of encouragement that there's a very good trend. Poverty is declining sharply. Sub-Saharan Africa is we know that is a home to the largest poor people in the world. And still, probably when it comes to poverty reduction, South Asia has, I think has done quite well in terms of this $2.15 a day. And in any way, this is a measure of kind of extreme poverty when it comes to, a measurement of poverty. But the question is, I think there is a high incidence of vulnerable poverty. So we might be very happy with looking at the trend, the declining trend. But when we consider vulnerability, then it becomes very prominent with the upward adjustment of poverty line income. So what does it mean? So how do you measure poverty? There is a poverty line income, and we see the household's average income or average expenditure, whether those expenditures or income are above the poverty line income or below. So what happens in many of the South Asian countries, if we look at this household data, that a large chunk of households from the survey data, they are probably by the poverty line income, they are non-poor, they are not below poverty line income, but they are just above the poverty line income. That means if you just raise that poverty income by some margin, you will see a large chunk of households or people who were defined as non-poor earlier, they suddenly become poor. So how do we get this uh, uh, poverty income? How can it be adjusted? It can be changed because of inflationary pressure. It can be changed because of various other measures. Because here we have considered in my last slide, poverty income for the extreme poor. But if we now consider poverty income for the moderate poor, who are not extreme, but let's consider some more income or some more things need to be considered in the lifestyle, then the things starts changing the picture. Look at this picture. If we consider instead of $2.15 a day and consider it $3.65 a day, you can see that the poverty reduction rate in South Asia is slowing down. And it's now kind of converging. It actually converged up to 2008-9 with the rate of Sub-Saharan Africa. But what happened? The gap between South Asia and other regions, except Sub-Saharan Africa, is widening. So that is one thing. But again, when you consider another poverty line income, it's called $6.85 a day. Then you see things are very, very different. That means the many of the households who were regarded as non-poor with a lower poverty line income, they become poor when you adjust the poverty line income. And in this case, South Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa became very indifferent. So that means that in the poverty reduction story in South Asia, across many different countries, there could be some country level variance or differences in South Asia. But the common story is that there have been success in reduction in poverty, but also there is a high incidence of vulnerable poor. That means any shock, like Professor Jyoti mentioned, COVID shock, any global price shock, any global supply side shock, like supply side disruption, something like what is happening now at the global level, you will see that many households, they suddenly fall into poverty. Professor Jyoti also talked about multidimensional poverty. Very quickly, I tell you that this is the estimate, the poverty, because the earlier slides I have shown to you, those were income-based poverty. But there are criticisms about income-based poverty because it doesn't really take into account some of the other measures or other aspects of livelihood. So this multidimensional poverty, this discussion, this discourse came out with the idea of looking at or taking into account health, education, and different components of living standards. So when they considered this, you can see that this multidimensional poverty rate in South Asia becomes around 21%. And Sub-Saharan Africa is, of course, they're almost 50% of the population. They are multidimensionally poor. And then you can see that second rate is South Asia. But if you now take into account the number of, you apply this percentage rate to the number of population, then there is a staggering number in South Asia. South Asia becomes home to around more than 400 million multidimensional poor people. So at this moment, this is a huge number. So what I'm saying, what I really tried to say that the growth story is great in South Asia. but we have a long way to go. And probably we have to run faster than what we have done in the past. Now, let's talk about inequality. When it comes to measurement of inequality, there are a lot of debates. Like I have talked about the measurement of poverty, and also it's related to the availability of data and the kind of survey data and regular data. But for what World Inequality Database, what they have done, you can easily go to WIIT database and you can get the data for many countries. What they did very nicely, they calculated, they tried to use the existing data, apply it, extrapolate it, and come up with these measures. And this figure is kind of alarming. So this is the top 10% of population's share in national income. Here you can see the South Asia is the red line, and that share is rising rapidly. That means the top 10% of the population, their share in their total national income is rising. And the richer is getting richer, in a simple language. So that's one thing. But they also provide another measure, is the bottom 50% of the population's share in national income. You can see South Asia has, on average, higher share than any other region in the world. But more, I would say, concern is that there is a falling share, the falling trend in that share, 50%, whereas many of the regions, they are seeing a rising trend. So I'll talk about this inequality a little bit later also. But here you keep in mind, what does the story tell you? It tells you that while the poverty story has been great in reduction at the extreme poverty, still there is a high risk of vulnerability. There is also a growing concern of rising inequality. And I'll talk about this later, that many of the inequality measures, what we do, even these statistics, what World Inequality Database they did, using the household survey data, they can't really capture the very, very rich people because the survey data, the enumerators would not be even allowed to enter those rich people's house to collect data. So I think we all know these problems. Let's talk about the labor market. This is also a bit surprising and striking. South Asia has a low labor force participation rate. You see, South Asia, the Middle East and North Africa, they have the lowest labor force participation rate. What is the labor force participation? What does it mean? It means that your working age population, what is the percentage of the working age population are in the labor force? So you see that the Middle East and North Africa, they have the lowest, the least, and then comes South Asia. And all other regions in the world, they have, on average, they have much higher labor force because I'll talk about that. They have many people in this working age population. They're actually coming to the labor market. They're participating in the formal or informal, whatever be the case, in the economic activities. But also, I need to admit that the countries in South Asia vary in the labor force rate. So there is a variance. You can see that some countries having higher, little bit higher, some countries having are having a little bit lower. But one reason why we are seeing this low labor force participation rate, one very important reason is that South Asia has a very low female labor force participation rate. So while the male labor force participation rate is at a reasonable level, but when it comes to female labor force participation rate, South Asia again is the second lowest. Now, if you look at this, Middle East and North Africa, they had very low female labor force participation, and South Asia is second to that. And there are also some variations at the country level in South Asia, where Afghanistan, quite naturally, they are the very lowest female, they allow female to participate in the labor market, and you can see only 5%. But other South Asian countries except Bhutan, probably the story is not that great. Also, we see that employment in agriculture is still very high. Though when it comes to GDP's share of agriculture, it is declining, but still agriculture provides the largest share of employment in South Asia. And very high level of vulnerable employment. what does it mean, vulnerable employment? And you can relate it with the high degree of informal employment. That means the workers, they don't have proper contractual agreement. The rights of the workers, rights to decent working conditions are very much not there when it comes to informal labor market. So in this case, South Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa, the share of employment, of the vulnerable employment share is almost the same compared to the other regions. And also we see this low employment to population ratio. That means, again, among the population, we see South Asia's labor market participation or employment, so it's not the labor market participation, actual employment participation is low. So I have already presented to you the kind of dilemma. Growth is on the one side, but some serious concerns when it comes to with respect to poverty, inequality, and labor market. But my question is, can you explain the dilemma? How do you explain it? Then probably the fundamental question is, how come there is a growth? And how come there is not much progress in a social development? So I present to you this one. So despite growth, the South Asian, we have seen this growth, I have showed to you, there's a slower improvement in per capita income. You see this graph. So this is a graph of the trend in per capita income in terms of US dollar, current US dollar. And you can see South Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa, they are not very far from each other. Whereas other regions, they are growing. They had in 2000, probably the gaps were not that big. There were gaps. But as we made progress, the gaps widened. And South Asia's growth, the red line, it grew in terms of per capita income, but not at a very rapid level. So this is a table which is very, very striking. And you might be surprised to know that in 1985, four or few countries, they have almost similar per capita GDP. India, China, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Vietnam. In fact, you can see this is the per capita GDP, around 300, less than $300. And if you consider Bangladesh as one in 1985, you can see India has 20% higher per capita GDP than Bangladesh. Nepal had only 63% of what Bangladesh had. Pakistan had 37% higher per capita GDP than Bangladesh. Sri Lanka had at that time 50% higher. China had only 20%. China and Indians' income per capita GDP was the same in 1985. And Vietnam had lower per capita GDP than Bangladesh. But things got rapidly changed in 2022. You can see that India actually had a lower per capita GDP than Bangladesh in 2022. Nepal became almost 50%. Pakistan became at least 60% of what Bangladesh had. Sri Lanka became 25%. But look at China and Vietnam. China became 4.73 times of per capita income. So while China's per capita GDP was less than $300, by 2022, it became $12,720. And Vietnam also showed some remarkable growth. So this shows that while some country in South Asia, while of course the per capita GDP growth was there, but many of the countries in East and Southeast Asia, they grew at a much faster rate. When it comes to structural transformation, I'm quite sure in your courses, you have already known about what this structural transformation mean. But if I tell you very briefly, it is mostly the idea is moving from low productive to high productive sector. Here also we see in South Asia, the share of agriculture declined in GDP, but still it's high compared to any other regions in the world. And also there is a high dominance of services sector, and which is a concern in the sense that a large part of the services sector still in the informal sector and not very productive. So that means when it comes to the structural transformation, there is not a very kind of rapid structural transformation in South Asia. But I will take you to another serious question. That's in the next slide. This is called the risk of premature deindustrialization. What is deindustrialization? Deindustrialization is it has been naturally seen in Europe and North America that as countries grew and they became richer, after certain stage, the share of manufacturing GDP declined. But while they were growing, their share of manufacturing in GDP and employment increased. But after certain time, after certain reaching at certain level, their share of manufacturing in GDP and employment declined. So that is a kind of natural deindustrialization. That means you see as country grow, the share of tertiary sector, especially the service sector, become very important. But what is premature deindustrialization? Premature deindustrialization means you experience falling share of manufacturing at a very early stage of your development, at a very lower level of per capita income. So if we look at South Asia, the red line, you see that it's a kind of, there was a rising trend up to certain point, and there is a falling trend. It's on average in South Asia, there's a kind of common average trend. But we can argue that whether this average trend captures the country-specific trend in South Asia. In general, I can tell you, in general, that is the trend in South Asia. More importantly, I think I've shown you at the very beginning, the second slide, the share of India in South Asia. So many of the trends are dominated by India's share because it's around 70 to 75% share in GDP and various other things. Let's look at this very interesting graph. This is a very interesting graph. What I'm showing here, India's declining share of manufacturing in GDP at low level of GDP per capita. Just to explain to you, on the horizontal axis, I have taken log of GDP per capita. And on the vertical axis, I have taken manufacturing value-added share in GDP. That means manufacturing share in GDP. So as you move to the right, you become richer. Because I have taken the log, because you know why we take log? Because if we apply this actual number, the graph, it would not be very possible to accommodate this graph. So it has scaled, standardized the scale. So if you go to the right from left, the horizontal axis, the country becomes richer. So here I compared India and Bangladesh with Malaysia. First, look at this Malaysian graph. You see, as Malaysia became more and more richer, and its manufacturing share was rising in GDP. But after a certain point, the manufacturing share started declining. You can say this is a kind of natural deindustrialization, what is happening in Malaysia. Well, probably that resembles what happened, the experience what happened in Europe and North America. Though there are Malaysian economies, they also raise concerns. But compared to South Asia, I would say that Malaysia had a kind of, had a good story of rising its share of manufacturing. But you can see that very nicely it was rising and after reached a point and then it started declining. But look at India and Bangladesh. So Bangladesh story, probably the red one, was rising. And Bangladesh story, in that case, probably not deindustrializing. But again, there is a big concern in Bangladesh is that its manufacturing is heavily driven by one particular sector, the ready-made garment sector. So probably that is not that sustainable. So let's keep Bangladesh aside. Let's look at India, the blue dotted line. You can see that again, India started rising and then started falling. When did it start falling? At a much lower level of per capita income than what Malaysia has. So this shows the kind of concerns that India is experiencing, whether it's early or very prematurely falling manufacturing share in GDP at a lower level of per capita income. And for you, many of you probably know that this risk of premature deindustrialization was mentioned or discussed or written heavily by Professor Danny Roderick in many of his literature, many of his writings. But let's give you some other interesting dimensions. Let's show you. So what I did, since I was talking about structural transformation index or structural transformation, I actually construct this part of my ongoing research. I constructed an index of structural transformation. And it's very much related to your manufacturing share in GDP and employment. So I use three indicators. One is the share of manufacturing in GDP. The second one, I really wanted to use the manufacturing employment in GDP, but unfortunately, that data is not available for many countries and for a longer period of time. So as a proxy, I used industry's employment share in total employment in the second indicator. The third one, what I used, and for many of you probably, if you have known it, but if you don't know it, I'm sharing with you this one, is called the Economic Complexity Index. This is an index, it shows very briefly that the kind of products a country export, how complex these products are. Are they producing very simple products or complex products? Okay, so the third indicator, from that I use that economics complexity index. That means the more complex products a country produce, those countries are more, you can say, that capable of, producing or producing more productive, or, or using more productive, in a more productive way, its available resources, and be more competitive at the global level or technologically more advanced. So these three indicators, what I did, I assigned equal weights to them, and I constructed an index between 1995 and 2001 for 27 years for 133 countries. But I'll be showing you in the next slide the trend for few South Asian countries and China and Vietnam. So look at this trend of structural transformation. The positive index or rising means you are having more structural transformation, or you are in a better position. So the top line is China. Of course, you see the China compared to these countries, Bangladesh, India, Vietnam, and there is an average of Sub-Saharan African LDCs, least developed countries. So they are at the bottom, the very blue line. And you can see there is a kind of very flat line. They remained a kind of very, almost at the same position, during this period for 27 years. No major structural transformation took place among those Sub-Saharan African poor countries, LDC countries. But when it comes to Bangladesh, India, and Vietnam, you can see there is a rising trend. And China is, of course, probably not really comparable with these countries to begin with in 1995. But very interestingly, you can see in 1995, Bangladesh and Vietnam had almost a similar level of structural transformation index. But as we moved on, the two countries, their gap widened. And while India has a higher structural transformation index in the 90s or late 90s compared to Vietnam, Vietnam caught up India, and then it exceeded India's, in 2018 or 19. So this is a kind of, you can visualize the way some countries move faster than other countries. And when it comes to comparing leading South Asian countries with some of the leading East Asia and Southeast Asian countries. But what I did as part of my research, I actually tried to see how export concentration and the structural transformation, they are related. So what I plotted here in the horizontal axis is called the export concentration index. This is from UNCTAD, and concentration means the index, higher the index, higher your export basket is concentrated. Lower value the index, your export basket is more diversified. And on the vertical axis, I have put my constructed structural transformation index, what I call STI. You see a very nice nonlinear negative association between export concentration and structural transformation. That means the countries with lower level of export concentration tend to have higher level of structural transformation. That's the kind of story it shows. And in fact, the very upper cluster, if you see the top cluster, those are the countries in North America and Europe, and very advanced level of countries where they had high level of structural transformation, and also they had a lower level of export concentration. Very quickly, what I did in my ongoing research, I actually separated these countries out. I put into separate blocks for them to have a better understanding. What I call them is that there are, and then I talked about various industrial policies, why and how some countries adopted different policies, industrial policies, and they put them there. So the red dot at the middle is Bangladesh, And then you see there is a red dot, it's called India to the left. And then little bit upper is Vietnam. And the top is China. So China is the first red dot. The second red dot is Vietnam's position. India is the third red dot. And Bangladesh is the fourth red dot. And I will just tell you very quickly what do this mean. So these are the countries, mostly the sub-Saharan African countries, where they had very high or exceedingly high export concentration basket, but they also had a very low level of structural transformation. Uh, I will not really talk about in details about the kind of industrial strategy because that will require another 30 minutes. So I'll not really go into that. But let's look at this kind of countries. So these are the countries where mostly the oil-rich countries where they had exceedingly high export concentration because they produce only oil, petroleum. They don't produce any other, they don't export any other products. But they also achieve some moderate level of structural transformation. So these are the oil-rich countries. Then this is a block of countries, mostly the developing, little bit, middle income, middle developing countries, where you see they actually had low level of export concentration, but they also achieved moderate level of structural transformation. India belongs there. And many of the Asian developing countries, as well as Latin American developing countries, they belong there. And then the top set of countries, which I actually call tech frontier, these are the countries where, these are the countries who are from North America and Europe, and and China is included there. South Korea you will find there. And very interestingly, you will find Vietnam is there too. The kind of classification I have done. And this is one, okay, and this is the one, last one is the called, and where Bangladesh I put, where Bangladesh has a very high level of export concentration and also achieves some moderate level of structural transformation. Since I'm looking at the watch, I will not really get into that, but let's look at these different trajectories of Bangladesh, India, China, and Vietnam in structural transformation between 1995 and 2021. In 1995, Bangladesh was in that lower group, very low level of structural transformation. But Bangladesh moved up and reached to this moderate one, but still was at this high export concentration. So Bangladesh movement was significant, but not that big. Look at India, 95 to 2021. India's change in structural transformation was positive, and India remained within this low level of export concentration. But look at the jump of Vietnam. In 1995, it was at a very lower level of almost at this lower end of this upgrading. And in those 27 years, it reached towards this tech frontier. And China is probably, as I said, China is kind of a different animal where it's difficult to compare China with any other countries. But again, China was at the very borderline of tech upgrading group, and then it became one of the top tech frontier countries. So I just wanted to show you that when we discuss about structural transformation, what we are witnessing in many of the South Asian countries, some positive changes, but these are happening at a much slower pace than compared to many other countries, comparable countries. Now, very quickly, let's look at this FDI, foreign direct investment, which was instrumental in bringing in rapid structural transformation in many of the countries in Southeast Asia and even in East Asia. In South Asia, the story is different. So South Asia is what I'm saying is experiencing a premature falling of FDI to GDP ratio. If you look at the red line, which is almost towards the bottom, this FDI to GDP ratio is falling. I know that India is already attracting FDI in various places. There's a very positive news. Countries like Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and other South Asian countries, they also want to encourage more FDI. But when it comes to really getting the FDI into the manufacturing sector, I think many of the South Asian countries did not really become successful. When it comes to trade orientation, trade to GDP ratio, especially what we call about this openness. Many of us, in many various literatures, mention this trade orientation, trade to GDP as openness. You can also see that South Asia appears to be very different from other regions. Many other regions, they became much more open compared to South Asia from the very beginning. South Asia started to open up, became more trade oriented, but then again pace slowed down. So this is another area of concern. Also, this is a very striking feature a number I'm going to present to you, that according to the Logistic Performance Index of World Bank, what we see that there is a very slow progress in Logistic Performance Index. And in the Logistic Performance Index, you know that there are few categories like customs, trade infrastructure, and various other things. Despite that, countries in South Asia, they have invested quite a lot on infrastructural development and made a lot of progress as well. So that's a positive sign. But at the same time, if you compare with other countries, because we know that when we compare and we really we try to figure out our comparative advantage from our trade theories, and we try to move away from the concept of static comparative advantage to more dynamic comparative advantage, we see that other regions where our major competitors are, they actually improve their trade logistics in a faster way than South Asia. But more importantly, I just want to say couple of 1 minute on this, the point I highlighted in red, what I call risk of entitlement failure in infrastructure. What is that? Many of you heard about or read about Professor Amartya Sen's entitlement failure, idea of entitlement failure. When it comes to analysis of famine, his remarkable analysis, what he said that famine is not caused by the shortage of food. Food is there in the market, but the people, a large part of the people, they didn't have the entitlement to purchase the food. So that means the supply shortage was not there. So again, in infrastructural case, that can also be a very, very important factor. Many of the countries in South Asia, and even outside of South Asia, we have seen there is a huge emphasis on investing on very, very big infrastructural projects, but not much attempt or interest in solving some small infrastructural problems which are very critical for SME development or very critical for diversification of the export basket or many new sectors to emerge. That means what may happen in this entitlement failure in infrastructure is that there are big roads, big infrastructures, but many SMEs or small industries or small sectors or many new emerging sectors, they are probably struggling to get onto those expressways because there is no connecting road for them to reach to those or get onto this expressway. We need investment onto those connectors. So here there is a gap, and that's why probably a large investment on infrastructure are not really translated into the kind of social story I have earlier talked about. But let's, I think, focus on two important aspects, extremely important. What we see that there's a much lower public investment on health and education in South Asia. I just want to remind you again, or just to highlight that I'm not really here to present to you a very gloomy picture. It's not that. What I'm really wanting to show you that these are some of the hard realities what South Asian policymakers need to address very quickly. And if these issues are being addressed in a more strategic and a more efficient way, I'm quite sure that South Asia will be able to solve many of its problems, what I have highlighted here. But let's look at the reality. It's the public investment in health and education. If we look at the public expenditure on health as a percentage of GDP, South Asia has the lowest. Even it is much lower than Sub-Saharan Africa. When it comes to GDPs, how much the government on average spending on health, public health, as percent of GDP annually, you see this is the lowest, and it remained lowest since 2000 until 2023. And that's why there's a concept called out-of-pocket health expenditure. I'm quite sure many of you are very much aware of it. That means out of the total current health expenditure, how much an individual actually pays out of his or her own pocket. And you can see South Asia has the highest rate of out-of-pocket health expenditure. That means, your illness, your sickness, or whatever be the health complications, the major burden falls on the individuals to, take this medical care. So this you can relate with the poverty and inequality. Because when you have this very high degree of out-of-pocket health expenditure, Professor Jyoti and I, we are talking in the morning about this, the shock a poor person can have. Because of a health concern, probably he or she may need to go to a private medical, spend high, probably selling some assets, and that will again increase the vulnerability of the poor people. That is a very big concern. Almost similar story happens with respect to education, public expenditure on education. So you see that the red line is the lowest, and probably more alarmingly, the public expenditure education as a percent of GDP is declining in South Asia. There is, of course, country to country was variation, but the general trend is like this. Let's show you another very interesting picture. This is also a part of my ongoing research. While I'm writing a paper on comparative advantage and dynamic comparative advantage. On the horizontal axis, I have taken land per 1,000 people. And on the vertical axis, this is the average years of schooling. This is a very, very interesting indicator of what UNDP uses, the average years of schooling, or expected average years of schooling for their Human Development Index. Probably many of you know that. So it's an imperfect indicator, average years of schooling, but it shows that on average, what is the level of educational development of a country. So you see what I've done, this is a data from 1990 to 2022. So I have compared South Asia again with East Asia, Pacific, Sub-Saharan Africa, Middle East and Latin America, North America and Latin America. So the lowest point in each line is the data for 1990, and the topmost point for each line is the data for 2022. Okay, so you see that in 1990, South Asia was almost close, had a lower average years of schooling than Sub-Saharan Africa. In fact, Sub-Saharan Africa had a higher average of schooling than South Asia in 1990. So probably you see that all the graphs is moving towards left. Why is that? Because as population is increasing, the land per 1,000 population is declining. That's why you are seeing a leftward, upward mobility. Sub-Saharan African mobility is very low. You can see that it's very flatter, the line. This graph itself is not that interesting, but it becomes interesting if I draw a line now. In 2022, the South Asia's development, the level of average per years of schooling was the same level was achieved by East Asia and Pacific in 2006. Same level was achieved by Middle East and North Africa in 2010. And same level was achieved by Latin American and Caribbean in 2000. That means compared to Latin American Caribbean, South Asia is 22 years lagging. Compared to East Asian Pacific, around 16 years. So what I'm saying that is extremely important when it comes to dynamic comparative advantage. South Asia has improved. South Asia has invested in education, but other regions have invested on their education and human capital at a much faster rate. If you really want to, why the paper I'm writing is about, because you know that South Asia's export structure is mostly labor intensive, not skill intensive. Whereas East Asia, Southeast Asia's export structure is mostly skill intensive. If South Asia wants to move from labor intensive export to more skill intensive export, it has to change its endowment. So its endowment is unskilled labor, mostly huge unskilled labor. So you have to increase the skill level of this unskilled labor. That means you have to make them educated and health-wise more healthy. Here we see this kind of very big gap. Now the question is, there are some questions. Is there any South Asian development model? So South Asian countries have shared similarities in their development strategies throughout various periods. But nonetheless, many of these countries have frequently struggled to effectively adopt and execute development policies and strategies that facilitate productive structural transformation, lead to swift and sustainable poverty alleviation, tackle inequality, and promote rapid job creation. As I said, the pace is slower. And that's why there is this need to seriously rethink the development strategy in South Asia. In my last couple of slides, I'll just talk about some of the emerging issues in economic growth and structural transformation, because what I have presented here in the world 20 years back, the same world we don't have. The world is changing rapidly. There is a global mega trend now in terms of 4IR, automation, climate change issues are coming up more strongly than in the past. There is a new ideas of new industrial policy where countries, they want to protect their, some of the very strategic sectors like semiconductor, renewable energy, and various other areas. So that means growing protectionism is a new phenomena. And of course, the trade war, reciprocal tariff, were listening to it, or you are seeing it almost every day on the paper. So then also there's a fundamental question that 20 years back, East and Southeast Asia, the way they emphasized manufacturing, is it still possible now for South Asia to pursue? I showed you the risk of premature deindustrialization, how to avoid it. There's a huge dominance of services sectors. But there is a counter argument that still the importance of manufacture can't be ignored. We can't ignore the importance of manufacture, especially the linkages between manufacturing with the services sector. Because we are seeing in many of the services sectors, what we call manufacturization of the services sector, or in the manufacturing sector, servicification of the manufacturing sector. That means the kind of linkages between these two sectors getting more and more prominent with the development of new technologies. And also, there is a high risk of middle income trap, because if you don't really, if the structural transformation doesn't happen at a rapid pace, at a faster pace, there is a trap you can be within this middle income, because many of the countries in Latin America, and in Asia, they remain either lower middle income country or upper middle income country for decades. They did not graduate. So this risk has to be avoided. And also there is a regional disparity in many of these South Asian countries. Various parts of the country, they don't really grow at the same pace. And some part of the country, they grow at a much faster rate, where poverty, deprivation remains very, very strong in other parts of the country. When it comes to poverty, the conceptual issues, I already showed you the ideas of poverty and vulnerability, income poverty and multidimensional poverty. More importantly, I think in order to help poor people to get rid of vulnerability is to enhance their capability. And how do you do that? What kind of government policies are needed? These are extremely important. That's why, to me, there are three fundamental questions. What are the structural factors behind poverty? We need to figure them out. How do different shocks, both economic and non-economic, affect poverty and vulnerability? And what are the important aspects of addressing poverty in a sustainable way? Some ideas about this inequality and some conceptual issues. We need to figure out some of the structural causes of inequality. And what could be the remedial measures, especially how do you use public policy, use of fiscal instruments, taxation, and redistributive measures to address inequality. And I think I have already talked about the problem of using survey data, because the survey data really can't capture very, very top rich people in the society. And also, when it comes to structural transformation inequality, if you look at the right graph, you see this is a part of a research where I was also a member. I contributed a chapter on that. So it shows that on the horizontal axis, if your structural transformation, the growth enhancing transformation can be either weak or strong, or your inequality can be increasing or stable or declining. So this is 2x2 matrix. South Asia falls into that top right corner. The analysis shows it's called Kuzinskian tension, strong. The country grew faster, but inequality also rose. And you can see East Asia is actually not, it's called benign. So they grew faster, but inequality did not increase at a very high rate. Whereas Sub-Saharan Africa and Latin America, they fall into this weak quadrant. In case of employment, I think there are questions not only about the number of jobs, but also the quality of jobs. Also, with this increasing dominance of or appearance of 4IR, gig economy, the definition of jobs, definition of decent jobs, these are becoming new, and we have to find new and right ideas and correct ideas to capture many of these. This example I just want to show you, this is called needle, no ideal in the ready-made garments industry. It's very fascinating. In Bangladesh, I'll take just 1 minute. In Bangladesh, the automation has got into these ready-made garments industries. What happened? The workers in the production line, they see that there is a device in front of them, which counts that how many products they are doing or their acts they're performing within an hour. It counts, automatically it counts. So earlier there was a task manager who used to come and shout at the workers. Now there is no need for those task managers. The task manager gets the data at the end of the week, and he or she can easily identify who are the weak workers and who are the strong workers. And unfortunately, the kind of working environment, the machines, these are not gender friendly or women friendly. And the pace the demands, the pace of work, many of the women, they find it difficult to keep the pace with the demand. So that's why many of the weaker workers become women. And we have seen with the increase of the automation in ready-made garments industry in Bangladesh, the declining share of women employment in the ready-made garments. So I'll not talk about these 5 issues, but some final words, very quick final words. One is, again, I just want to remind you that I tried to talk about the broad pattern and trend. I showed you some country-specific examples, but there could be more nuances, more nitty-gritty, and this is something it requires bigger research. And I did not talk about the political economy and institutional challenges, but these are extremely important. How the bureaucracy works, how rule of law works, how the corruption works, what is the kind of attempts to contain corruption. These are also extremely important, when it comes to, getting the benefit of high growth and to translate into a high level of social development. My final point is the importance of regional cooperation. In many of these countries in South Asia, I think they have not been able to use regional cooperation as an effective tool for their meaningful structural transformation, which is very much different to the experience what we have seen in Southeast Asia. In Southeast Asia, their development process, both in economic and social development process, regional cooperation was a very strong element. In South Asia, we are still lagging in that. So with this, I will hope that, in South Asia, countries will come forward, will go for more united approach, because we have many common challenges, common issues, some of the things I have presented to you. And I am confident that with some united efforts, we'll be able to change the scenario. Thank you so much.
What an enriching and thought-provoking session. Thank you, Professor Raihan, for sharing your expertise and deep insights with us. Your lecture has certainly provided us with a fresh perspective on the pressing economic issues of the region. You have very well highlighted the importance of South Asia and its geostrategic positioning, which has really helped the country to grow over the years. How vast is the population and the share of GDP? The existing dilemma between growth under diverse scenarios, and most interesting was the structural transformation indexed and the changing dynamics of the country's growth. Lastly, you talked about the various economic growth issues like protectionism, trade wars, and climate change. And last but not the least, you had very well said about the importance of regional cooperation. Thank you so much for this wonderful lecture, sir. We now open the floor for 2 questions.
Only 2 questions, because there's another event also. Anybody? Sabyasachi, we first give it to a student, then it will be you. Any student, yes, give it to Umbrella.
Thank you for the really good lecture. Really loved the entire dynamic. So, what about free trade agreements and South Asia? Like, how does the dynamic exactly fit in with FTAs? And can it be on of the same level as, let's say, EU FTAs or even the North America FTAs?
Thank you. I can answer it, no, Professor Jyoti? Okay. Uh, very good question. Of course, I think free trade agreements, I think these are the future. Because of the global trading regime is changing very rapidly. It started changing the last 1 decade or so with the declining importance of the multilateral trading organization WTO. Though most of the countries of the member of WTO, they are benefited from this multilateral trade organization because that established a rules-based trading regime, trade system. Other than that, you see that one country just imposing tariff in the morning on another country, and you don't find any other institute to or organization to make a complaint or get the remedial remedies out of it. So, but this has become a bit of reality now because we'll see more of trade war probably in the future in the coming days. So, in that case, the countries with an idea or believe in free trade or believe in this they don't really appreciate this kind of trade wars. I think they should come closer to each other. And in that case, the initiative of EU-India FTA, I think, is a very right step towards that kind of thing, towards, I would say that addressing some of the very anomalies at the global level. But at the same time, that there is a big mega trading bloc in Asia also, which is called the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, which India did not participate in 2018-19. But my belief and my hunch is that probably India will reconsider because I think this is something what, as I said, the countries who believe in common free trade values, they should come closer. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, any other student? Then we come to Sabyasachi.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon to everyone present here. Sir, my question was basically about the fact that Bangladesh just went through a period of political instability and it's slowly moving towards a more stable order. So do you think political stability in Bangladesh could also have a very positive impact on India specifically? And if so, do you think it would also have an impact on the STI that you mentioned? And if so, how would it impact South Asia as a whole?
Thank you. I think political stability, not in only in Bangladesh, but all other South Asian countries are extremely important. And the problem is that we are, as I said on a very, very fast slide, we have common history, common legacy. So the issue of political stability in one country spillovers to another country. So I'm very much hopeful the transition and transformation, what is happening now, will go into the very positive direction. And a very peaceful and prosperous Bangladesh is extremely important for this region, for the regional stability. And I fully endorse the view that probably this will also lead to a more productive structural transformation in Bangladesh and also help in other countries. Just to add one point about the free trade agreement, what Professor Jyoti, she reminded, the importance of South Asian free trade agreement. We had SAFTA, but unfortunately for many reasons, which I'm not really getting into the details, it did not really materialize much. It saw some progress, but then it did not really materialize much. So I think we need to again look back and some of the issues what were we agreed on in not SARC or SAFTA, or even there is a BIMSTEC approach which is there too. And BIMSTEC summit is going to take place on 4th of April in Bangkok. I see that if these initiatives can really be materialized, then there will be new areas of cooperation. For example, during COVID, we all realized that how important regional cooperation is. When the vaccines were not available from global level, and then we found the countries, they actually came forward and provided the support. And also there was a need for more support. I think this is the areas probably the countries need to look at more effectively. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir, for the lecture. Sir, I have a question that you have not mentioned about the conflict between these countries in South Asian countries, South Asian economies, that conflict among these countries. Yes, yes, and also not highlighted about this service sector contribution to the economic growth, I think. And one more part is that economic high income, the income per capita. How can we increase that income? Is that the urbanization? Because in India, about 2% urbanization is contributing about 65% GDP. So that could be one of the way of thinking that how we can increase the income. That I don't know. What is your take on that? And second part is that why people are spending less money on health and education? Why they are spending money for the defense or something else? What do you think? Why they are less contribution to the health? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Why they are spending less money in the?
Oh, yes. So Professor Shabboshachi, he actually came up with 4 questions instead of 1. So yes, why, I think I start with your last question. Why government is spending less on health and education. I think definitely the issue is about the priorities. And also in some of the South Asian countries, even I talk about Bangladesh. I think I should talk more about Bangladesh rather than talk about other countries. Is that the country struggles to mobilize resources, especially the tax to GDP ratio. When you have a low tax to GDP ratio, then of course, when it comes to different government priorities, then you see that there is a problem of spending more on health and education. So that is one thing. But at the same time, I also would like to add that there is a need for citizens' awareness too. Citizens also need to be aware. They also need to put the demand, for better health and better education. When the citizens, they don't really do it in a more organized way, then this is the problem. Income per capita. Yes, South Asian countries, in many of the South Asian, even in Bangladesh, probably you'll find many people, they have probably higher per capita income than USA. Because, and then that tells you that the large income disparity. But why South Asian countries, despite they grew, they could not increase their per capita income much? Because I think one is, of course, the distributional aspect, the large population size. And also, I think the first rate, it should grow, it was not very consistent. At some period, it grew, and then you see that it was not the case. So you need to grow consistently, and the growth has to be broad-based, not very narrow-based growth. Of course, services sector is extremely important. And then probably that's why towards the end, I said that it's very need to rethink about the services sector, whether integration of services with the rest of the economy, how we can, develop our strategies, industrial strategies based on that. I didn't really want to talk much about the conflict because these are all sad stories. So, but I hope that we'll get out of those conflicts and go towards more unified and a peaceful South Asia. Thank you.
Uh, I'm going to take the liberty of making a closing remark over here. Point number 1 is we do hope and keeping our fingers crossed, hoping that good sense prevails on South Asia as a region, and SAARC and its FTA is revived, because I think there's enough potential for trade between the region, while each country, whether it is Bangladesh, India, etc., are renegotiating. I also wanted to highlight to you that, there are a large number of states in India like Tamil Nadu, Gujarat, which have a high industry component, and they have a GDP which would probably be inching towards a upper middle income economy. So while the whole of India gives you this picture of being lower, but there are pockets of excellence that are there in the Indian front. And of course, I think when we had a conversation this morning, both Bangladesh and India, though you find that the proportion of the expenditure on education and health is limited, we do fall back on the private sector for this. And even when government does spend, I think the people are more inclined towards private education and private health, something that has to be done in terms of marketing it or branding it in a manner that you have faith in the education and health that is even there from the public sector. So I just thought on that front, we will, close this session for today. And thank you, Selim ji, for a wonderful, wonderful conversation.
As we conclude this prestigious event, it's my privilege to formally propose a vote of thanks. First and foremost, our sincere gratitude goes to Professor Selim Raihan for taking the time to share his invaluable expertise today. Your words has been truly enlightening and will inspire us further in academic engagement and policy-oriented discussion. A special thanks goes to Professor Jyoti Chandiramani, Director, Symbiosis School of Economics, for her continuous guidance and support in making the event a success. We also extend our gratitude to all the faculty members, organizing committee, and IT staff who have been worked really hard behind the scenes to ensure the seamless execution of today's program. Our appreciation goes to the dear students and all attendees for their enthusiastic participation. Thank you, ma'am. May we now proceed to the annual day celebration. Okay.
Good afternoon. Can we please settle down and start with the annual day proceedings? Students, please settle down. Good afternoon. I have been given the task of starting off with our annual day proceedings. I will be joined by several other colleagues from time to time. Let us begin, but before I start with the presentation, I would like to take a moment to say that I think today's Tendulkar Memorial Lecture will be one of my most favorite, hands down. Thank you, Professor Raihan. Let's begin then. We all know that Symbiosis School of Economics was established in 2008 at the hands of Dr. Montek Singh Ahluwalia. This is our tagline. Economists of tomorrow are made here, striving towards equilibrium. We are all aware of this, and we take pride in this. As far as academics is concerned, this is how our progression has been. In 2008, we started with the BSc Economics program. In 2011, we started with MSc Economics and only 2 specializations, Development Studies and International Trade. In 2014, we converted the BSc Economics to a BSc Economics Honors program. In 2016, we introduced urban development, which is actually Professor Chandiramani's brainchild, and this is one of the first in the country. In 2019, we introduced MSc Economics in Finance as a specialization, and in 2023, in line with the NEP guidelines, we have introduced a BSc Economics Honors with Research. This will be a 4-year. Gradually, this has now become a 4-year program. And we have also introduced MSc Economics Data Analytics. Right now, the MSc program has 5 specializations, and there are a few more specializations according to the NEP guidelines with respect to BSc Economics Honors with Research. At SSE, we follow the RPI model. As you can see in the graphic here, we concentrate on academics, research, placement, internationalization, and enhanced engagement. What will follow from here is going to be based on the RPI model with respect to the information that will be shared. In terms of academics, teaching, and learning, these are our specializations and the research area focus: urban studies, international trade, development studies, financial economics, behavioral economics, experimental economics, and AI and economics applications of AI. We are very proud to say that our curriculum and our academics is ever evolving. We use very innovative pedagogy. We are concentrated on experiential learning, interdisciplinary approach. We foster critical thinking in class and outside of class as well. We have a research-focused curriculum, and we are engaged with varied stakeholders from different kinds of social and industrial and economic facets. We also concentrate on contemporary and applied learning outcomes. The programs and specializations are as follows. The BSc Economics Honors or Honors with Research has business entrepreneurship, finance, development policies, and artificial intelligence as the specialized tracks that students can choose. As far as MSc Economics is concerned, like I've mentioned before, we have 5 specializations: development studies, urban development, finance, and data analytics and international trade. I will now request my colleague Sneha to kindly come and discuss the research aspects with all of you.
Over the years, we have seen a positive increasing trend in the research and publications. You can see that in 2024, we had 45 research publications, with majority of them included in Scopus Index. Given a target of 23 publications, the faculty of SSE has contributed to 45 publications, and they have collaborated with countries like France, United Kingdom, United States, Australia, Canada, Japan, and United Arab Emirates. In addition to that, we are really proud to announce that faculty member from SSE has also filed a copyright and received a copyright and patent on system for enhancing learner engagement in higher education and blended learning and innovative pedagogy. In addition to that, the faculty of SSE are engaged in research projects and consultancies which are given from different government organizations. And again, that's a remarkable achievement that in 2024, we achieved 1.6 crores budget from NABARD, NIUA World Bank, Gondia District Office, Embassy of France, Ashoka University, ISD, National Stock Exchange, Niti Aayog, SIU, NRCG Grapes, Saibej Asha, AAEA, ICSSR, and in addition to that, the faculties have completed 8 district strategic plans, which was funded by Government of Maharashtra Planning Department with the support of the non-teaching staffs and of course our accounts department. The Students Research Cell of SSE has made a remarkable job in motivating the students for conference presentations. So these are few students who have played a very good role in students' conference presentations. Shweta, Vinayak, and Dhruv, they presented a paper in international conference at VIT, and their paper has been selected for publications. Suhani Verma has also presented a paper in Harvard project, and she was invited to give a guest lecture. Shweta and Vinayak, they have presented the paper in international conference at Jamia Millia Islamia, and they were offered an internship. Pondicherry University conference, we had students Shritan, Isha Kulkarni, and Khushi Jain who presented a paper, and Shritan Narayan won the Best Presentation Award. Last but not the least, Aditya and Suhana, they secured 4th runner-up award for the Young Economist Research Competition. So it's a very good job for the students of SSE for the research set. So this also has been supported by different centers in SSE, Center for Academic Writing, Center for Quantitative Learning and Applications, Behavioral and Experimental Economics Cell, Symbiosis Center for Urban Studies. These are headed by different faculties who are consistently engaged in projects, workshops, publications, collaborations, and conferences to overall build the capacity of the students, faculties, and the PhD scholars. So let me call out Dr. Sabyasachi Tripathi, sir, to introduce the Symbiosis Center for Urban Studies.
Very good afternoon to all of you. The Symbiosis Center for Urban Studies was established under Symbiosis International University in January 2022. So SCOOS is committed to analyzing and solving a variety of urban issues with the help of multi-stakeholders, discussions and dialogues to steer urban development, adhering to sustainable development and goals framework. the center is working towards research in order to create sustainable cities and communities, making our cities inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. Schools will steer the research agenda towards creating and transformative and sustainable urbanization for India at the rate of 2047. Currently, we are having about four projects ongoing. One of them is local action for climate change in Pune city. This project is funded by the University of Sheffield, UK. Another project is going on. This is city level GDP estimation in India, which is one of the biggest project in our center, which is ongoing. And we hope that that how to create, how to estimate GDP for Pune will be our a benchmark to measure GDP for other cities as well. So we expect that within 2-3 months it will be over. And another project is ongoing, localizing SDGs in Pune city. So sustainable development goal, which is one of the important agenda, is ongoing, and our center is trying to estimate for Pune city. So this is local level estimation, and which is already ongoing, and this should be coming up within 2-3 months down the line. And finally, India's urbanization is mostly having problem of the big cities concentration, that mostly people living in the very big cities. So in terms of small town development, we are having a project. The project called is the study of governance and livability of the census town, which are basically the small town in Pune. So mostly we focus only on Pune, but we expect that coming years we will be going or doing research from different places in India as well. So these are some pictures where our center is ongoing, and meeting some government officials in different parts of Pune districts to getting data and making that progress. So hope that in the coming future we will have a different policy for urban development, specifically through this center. And all goes to Professor Jyoti Chandiramani for her kind mentoring us and for your contribution. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. I'm Varun, and on behalf of the Placement Cell, MSc Placement Cell, BSc Placement Cell, I'll be presenting a joint report. I'll start with the BSc Placement Cell. All I just wanted to say is that the Placement Cell started working from the month of July onwards, and our placement season goes up till June, July, August. So I'll be just presenting about the statistics which was there till Friday. So here I present the BSc. Around 85 students sat for placements over the year. We had 10 plus companies coming in for placements, and Tresista, which had come for research and investment services analyst position, it hired almost 2/3 of our current students, which is 43, which has been placed. Followed by Nielsen IQ, a market research firm. So we had around 20% of the students which are being hired in market research industry. And when it comes to consulting, it is with ZS and. So ZS, the students, SYBSc students, please note, they have a campus beat case challenge program. And if you go up to the finalist, you get a chance to appear directly for the interview rounds. So 4 of our students got selected, out of which for the interview round, and 2 got finally placed. Thank you. And we had 1 student which got selected at and the companies are still coming in. So we hope this numbers will increase. And last year it was 65 students from BSc which were placed, and currently we are at 43. Coming to masters, in masters, the one big success story is Citigroup, which hired 5 of our MSc students with the package of 16.9 lakh per annum. So big shout out for them. Then we had followed by the companies like SmartCube, which hire for the position of forecasting analyst. Then we had market research firms like Kantar. We had finance firm like Company. And we have academic institution like BITSOM, which hire for academic associates. So far, 13 students have been placed and the placements are ongoing. Coming to the interventions which we had, at Placement Cell, our focus is on corporate engagement, where we try to invite corporates which hire master's or bachelor economic graduates. So that, and in that regard, we had sessions on market research, we had session on data analytics, data analytics and banking, we had session on ESG, and we had different. One of the things which we feel is the conversion rate. We have a lot more applications, but the conversion rate is low. And to address that issue, we in this year have started the process of mock interviews. And many times our alumni have come forward and taken mock interviews. So if any student is going to appear for the interview, you can reach out to the placement cell and we will try to facilitate a mock interview for you so that you're well prepared. Lastly, I would just like to thank my entire placement cell team, the faculty in charges, Dr. Ashlesha for MSc, me and Tarun for BSc, Suvarna ma'am, Ms. Suvarna Karne, who handles day-to-day activities of placement cell. She's our placement officer. She sits at first floor. So please reach out to her for anything related to placement or internships. Here, I have not covered about internships, but few of the students have got through internships, whether it was ENY firm and other firms. But here, I have not covered internships. So with this, I conclude my report. Thank you.
Symbasa School of Economics is committed to providing these students with international exposure through prestigious summer schools, both online and offline, in collaboration with institutions such as London School of Economics, St. Petersburg's University, Russia. We actively encourage project-based learning, including the LEX program, a 10 days residential design thinking workshop in collaboration with Singapore Polytechnic University, where our students participate with these students of the Singapore Polytechnic University at Lovely campus, and they are involved in designing the projects for the rural development so that the villages nearby Lovely campus can improvise in their education, health, and even sanitation. We offer semester exchange opportunities with universities in Germany, Lisbon School of Economics, Portugal. For further enhancing the global outreach, we are developing pathway programs for master degree at Aston and Lancaster University, and are in process of launching a dual degree program with University of Bristol, equipping our students with a truly international academic experience. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Well, now I'll talk about alumni. We have a very strong alumni network, more than 2,000 alumni we have, and they are working in public as well as private sectors. In public sector, we have one who is an IES, and many are working with Niti Aayog, then RBI, then many government sectors. And we also have alumni who's working with private sectors. They are now at vice president, senior level managers and all that. So with alumni, we also conduct every year alumni meet at various cities. This year we have conducted in 2 cities, and we also include our alumni for various talks and various engagements, guest lectures, etc. So from last few years, what we have done, we have started giving recognition to our alumni. And on my, if you see, starting from Dr. Abhay Pant, who actually graduated from IIM Indore. He has done his PhD from IIM Indore, and now he's working with IIT Guwahati as an assistant professor. Then we have Dr. Hari Krishnan, 811 batch, completed his PhD from Dublin University, now working as an assistant professor over there. We have next Gaurav Bray, which currently he's heading talent acquisition at TCS. And then we have Akshat, Dr. Akshat, who is working with Brige University, Amsterdam. And then we have Achal, MSc 1214 batch, She was first PhD holder from Symbiosis School of Economics. She has done her PhD under the mentorship of Dr. Jyoti Chandramani, our director. And unfortunately, she's no more with us. We pray that she's listening, and we hope that she's in peace wherever she is. We have another also recognition, Apurva. She's also working at the moment at NIPFP, and she has written Oxfam report, like many chapters in the Oxfam report. So we definitely have a very strong alumni network, and we also have a surprise today that we are going to announce a little later. And now I would like to invite Dr. Niharika for enhanced engagement, please.
Hello, everyone. Symbiosis School of Economics has significantly enhanced its engagement with leading think tanks and government institutions, fostering meaningful academic and policy-oriented collaborations, the signing of Memorandum of Understanding with institutes like IRADE, NIUA, IIMAD, and in process IHD, are strategic steps towards joint research, knowledge exchange, and capacity building. These partnerships reflect the Institute's commitment to addressing real-world economic challenges through collaborative efforts. We are very proud of our, like Professor Roy said, 2,500 plus alumni network, and at present, 750 plus students. Not much is needed to say, which has already been said, as today we have heard a lot about late Professor Suresh Tendulkar and his contribution to Indian economy and to the world. SSE has been organizing this series of lecture, and which serves as a tribute to the legacy of one of India's foremost economists. It provides a meaningful platform for reflection and dialogue on critical economic issues. The event continues to inspire students, faculty, and scholars alike to pursue academic excellence and policy relevance. It started from 2014, and like Jyoti ma'am has already mentioned, we've had equally brilliant scholars who have come and inspired us. We'll add Professor Selim Raihan to the list now, thankfully. Moving on to the annual flagship event of SSE, Economist of the Year. This is a brainchild of Dr. Jyoti Chandramani, and it began in 2017. It has since grown into a prestigious global platform. This year, we had over 1,500 registrations from across the world, from 230 Indian colleges, 150 international institutions, and its reach and impact has expanded remarkably. The recent edition's winner from the University of Bristol, Ms. Belle Miller, stands as a proud testimony to SSE's growing global presence and academic excellence. SSE has over 19 clubs in cells with extra and co-curricular activities. It has a very strong MSc Council, Sports Council, and BSc Council. To further emphasize upon the activities conducted by them, I would now like to invite Ms. Vanshika Pava, the President of BSc Student Council, to give her annual report for the same.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is with my immense pride that I present the annual BSc Student Council report for 2024-2025, highlighting a year of remarkable achievements and unforgettable moments. We began with the heartfelt Teachers' Day celebration on September 5th, followed by vibrant cultural events like Durga Puja, Garba Night, and Bollywood Day. Our flagship fest, Niverf 2025, themed Aurora Odyssey, brought together students nationwide, culminating in an electrifying pro night featuring Sahil Shah and high-energy DJ night with Aztec. The Economist of the Year 2025 competition saw participations from 397 colleges globally, with Belle Miller emerging as the winner and Jhalak Dhindania as the runner-up. Coming to the club achievements, Arithmeti launched the Arithmeti Epistle and collaborated with Investors Club. Celluloid created a Foundation Day video and hosted an escape room event. Entrepreneurship Cell organized Entropia 4.0, securing third place in Inventure St. Xavier's Mumbai. Enactus raised rupees 7,000 through Project Katran and launched eco-friendly candles under Project Ronak. Gender Cell hosted Pride Not Prejudice 2.0 and AIDS awareness workshop. Investors Club participated in IIT Bombay's Tech Fest Moneta 2024 and led a financial literacy drive. Kalakriti enhanced events aesthetics with handmade and decor and invitations. Kodak covered major SSE events and produced the official Never 2025 after movie. Mansok won accolades at BTC MUN 2024. Raga reached the finals at Pravega 2025 and performed at Flame Kurukshetra. Synergy won first and second place at Tal Tarang and bagged rupees 35,000 at MIT WPU Arohan. Student Research Cell secured fourth runner-up at the Young Economist Research Competition. Small Talk hosted PJ Day, Open Mic, Secret Santa in collaboration with Raga and Synergy. Samarpan raised rupees 12,000 through Jade Parade Sustainable Plant Sale. ISR led sustainability initiatives, including blood donation drive and tree plantation at Tiger Hill. A year to remember, this year has been a testament to our collective efforts, making SSE not just a hub of academic excellence, but a thriving, dynamic community. As we come to the close of this wonderful celebration, I would like to take a moment to express my heartfelt gratitude to everyone who have made this evening truly special. Our respected director, ma'am, Dr. Jyoti Chandramani, and our esteemed faculty, thank you for your unwavering guidance and support. Your dedication continues to inspire and shape us into the individuals we aspire to be. On this occasion, let us carry forward the joy, learning, inspiration from today into the year ahead. May we continue to strive for excellence, nurture our aspirations, and uphold the legacy of this esteemed institution. Thank you, and wishing you all a wonderful evening. Signing off on behalf of Himanshu Soria, Anshika Nair, Muskan Khargawat, and I, Vanshika Pahaba, your BSc Student Council 2024-2025. And now I would like to invite Samriddhi Ghosh to present the MSc Student Council report for 2024 and 2025.
Good morning, everyone. It is the immense pride that I present the annual council report for Master's Program of 2024-2025, highlighting a year of remarkable achievements and unforgettable moments. From the dazzling lights of Onam, Durga Puja and Garba Night, Bollywood Day, Nivar 2024, EOTY 2024 to the digital backgrounds of Pixel League, the campus was painted with unforgettable experiences and launched SSE into the esports arena, forging legends of the digital age. Club achievements. Arthaniti. They unleashed T-Cube, This, That, Them, a newsletter that warped minds with economic insights and joined forces with the literary titans of the Wordsworth. Kinoscope. They transformed the silver screen with mind-bending movie and documentary screenings, then armed the students with the power of visual storytelling through a reel and short film editing workshop. X-Quiz Me. These intellectual gladiators conquered the online quiz events across India. They forged alliances with other clubs hosting collaborative quizzes. Quirkonomics. These amazing brains descended upon campus with weekly aptitude tests and mind-expanding workshops on hedonism and nudge theory, and initiated group therapeutic discussions, sparking revolutions of thought. The Wordsworth. They resurrected the grandeur of Victorian voices, hosting discussions that echoed through time, and ignited a poetic inferno with their poetry slam and open mic afternoon, proving that words are the ultimate magic. the Storyteller Society. They transform the campus into a living narrative with Campus Chronicles while capturing the soul of Pune in their photography workshop and then showing the campus the magic of film. ISR, they orchestrated a life-saving blood donation drive and turned the campus into a green paradise with their tree plantation drive, proving that heroes wear scrubs and carry saplings. Raga, they conjured the mystical sounds of Carnatic and Sufi music in their workshops and unleashed the rhythmic fury of folk fusion, while also adding their musical talents to the Durga Puja and Navratri celebrations, so showing the campus the power of music. In sync. They commanded the stage with electrifying performances at Durga Puja and Navratri, and then they taught the campus the divine steps of Kathak, hip hop, and salsa, and then they provided the opening dance act for Nivav 25, showing the campus the power of dance. It was truly a year to remember. This year has truly highlighted our shared dedication, transforming SSE into not only a center of academic excellence, but also a vibrant and thriving community. I extend my deepest gratitude to our director, Dr. Jyoti Chandramani ma'am, every student, faculty member, and council representative for their invaluable contributions. A huge thanks to the BSc Council, who has made all the work smoother, and to the election conductors of both the councils. Together, we have made this year extraordinary. Thank you so much.
Yes, hello.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Lokik Tathed. I'm the head of the Sports Council for this year, along with Nishika Betala. I'll be giving everyone a quick recap of everything sports related that took place this academic year. So I would like to start by recognizing our hardworking athletes who, achieved a lot of things this year. So I think the highlight of all our teams this year was the swimming team. They won a lot of medals. So starting off with the Inter-Institute Swimming Championship, our women's swimming team won silver overall, while the captain Swarali Gore won silver in 200 meters individual medley. Adding to that was Rutuja Patil, who won 2 more gold medals, and the men's team captain Karan Sundaraman won a bronze in the 50-meter backstroke event. This year, the swimming team also went to BITS Palani to participate in the BITS Open Sports Meet, where they won 4 gold across individual events by Swarali Gore. Vanisha Verma added to that by winning 1 silver and 3 bronze, while the women's swimming team also won 2 golds in the relay events. In open water state level swimming tournament, Tanvi Devakar of FY completed 5 kilometers of swimming at Malwan Beach, which is a remarkable achievement. Moving on to table tennis, the men's team from SSE won silver in the Inter-Institute Championships, and the captain Adit Karandikar, along with Swarada Desai from the women's team, was selected to represent SIU at the West Zone All India Championships. In addition, Pritika Barsai and Surbhi Agarwal won bronze in their respective categories in the Inter-Institute Taekwondo Championships. Sartaj Pannu of SY was also selected to be a part of the SIU team at the West Zone All India Championships in cricket. I myself got the opportunity to represent SIU for West Zone Badminton and West Zone Basketball. In the first ever Inter-Institute Handball Championship, our handball team won 4th place, and they played a lot of tough matches, so I think that's a remarkable achievement. And the women's football team won silver in the Simbi Super Cup. Moving on to some of the activities conducted by the Sports Council this year. This year marked the first edition of the SSE Football League, which was conducted with an auction in which more than 50 players participated and was a huge success. Heracles FC of MSC won the entire thing. Congratulations to them. On Jersey Day, which was a pre-fest event for the Sports Fest, students, faculty, and staff participated in fun and competitive games while they wore their favorite sports jerseys. So that was another fun event that we conducted, and it got together all of the students, faculty, and staff. Finally, for our annual Sports Fest, River of Sports 2025, we saw over 45 plus colleges participate, and we added a new event in the form of pickleball, which was a huge success. And apart from that, I would just like to thank the Sports Council, apart from myself, in Nishika Betala, Ravish Vishnu, Shriyanka Joshi, as well as our faculty in charge, Ashwini ma'am, our mentor, Roy sir, and of course, our respected director, ma'am, Jyoti Chandramani ma'am. To stay updated with any of the other further updates from our Sports Council, be sure to follow our Instagram page. Thank you.
I would like to invite Professor Raihan and Jyoti ma'am onto the stage to give out the awards to the winning students. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. I have the privilege and honor of announcing the academic category winners. First rank BSc SEM 1, Samriddhi Midha, batch 2024-28. First rank BSc Semester 2, batch 2023-27, Nikunj Mohta. First rank BSc Semester 3, also an Excellence Award for the Student Research Cell Best Member, batch 2023-27, Jayati Abhay Bora. First rank BSc Semester 4, batch 22-25, Ryan Mukhopadhyay. First rank BSc SEM 5 and also the batch topper BSc batch 2021-24 Gaurang Fadke. Gaurang is also our student at the master's program. So Gaurang, please stay back. Gaurang, stay back. Gaurang also has secured the first rank MSc Semester 1, batch 24-26. First rank MSc Semester 2, batch 23-25, Amal Nair. Amal, please stay back. Please stay back. First rank MSc Semester 3, International Trade, batch 23-25, Amal Nair. First rank MSc Semester 3, Development Studies, batch 23-25, Deepika. First rank MSc Semester 3, Urban Development, batch 23-25, Saksham. First rank MSc Semester 3, Finance, Shruti Jain, batch 23-25. First rank MSc Semester 4, Development Studies, Shriya. This is batch 22-24. Shriya is not here. First rank MSc Semester 4, International Trade, Aparna Krishnan. Batch 22-24. She's not there either. These are the past graduates. First rank MSc Semester 4, Urban Development, Sanhita. Batch 22-24. She's there. She's not there either. First rank MSc Semester 4, Urban Development, I completed. First rank MSc Semester 4, Finance, Vansh Agarwal, 22-24. Not there either. Vansh has also been the batch topper at the MSc program for the 22-24 batch. I would now like to announce the BSc dissertation category at the undergrad level. Manpreet Kaur and Shushanto Ghosh, 21-24, both. They are not there either. And MSc dissertation, batch 22-24, Arpan Das and Pritika Naik. They are not there either. May I now request my colleague, Dr. Niharika Singh, to announce the extracurricular activities awards.
Moving beyond academics, for the club activities undergraduate, the Best Member Award for Small Talk. May I invite Tarushi Gupta, batch 24-28. Best Member Award for Raga, Mr. Gautam Nair. Best Dancer and Best Football Player of the Year, Surbhi Upadhyay. She's got 2 awards. Best Member Gender Cell, Shrisha Iyer. For Samarpan, it goes to Mehika Rawat. The most responsible person, that's ISR award, best member goes to Manas Shukla. Kodak Club best member, Samo John. Coming there. Nami there. Enactus best member, Ovia. Madhura requests you to please ask all the recipients of the award to please come and sit in the front rows. Investors Community Best Member, Karthik Goyal. Can you please come up in front to save time?
Yes, sorry.
Entrepreneurship Cell, Best Member, Soham Jha. He's not here. Synergy Best Club Member, Unnati Rai. Let's move to the postgraduate club activities. Excellence Award, Behavioral Economics Club, Anand Dalvi, 24-26. For ISR, Amea, batch 23-25. Please go. Media Club, Partho Mukherjee. For the MUN Club, it's Akanksha, 24-26. For award for the quiz club, it's Preeti, 23-25. MSc Raga Club, Vijay Sriniketan. And also it goes for the Kinescope Best Student in Filmmaking. So 2 awards to him. Excellence Award, Arthaniti Ritvik. The Book Club, Wordsworth, Hansel James. Best Dancer, MSc, Khan Aris. Best student in filmmaking, Kinescope, Teresa Meagle. For the sports awards, I would request Dr. Ashwini to come forward, please.
Most excited awards, sports category. Football player of the year, main category, Pratyush from BSc 20 to 25. Next, basketball player of the year, women category, Prathama Srivastav, FY 24-28. Next, badminton player of the year, main category, Manav, MSc SY 23-25. Not here. He's not here. Next, best sports person, swimming, men category, Karan Sundaraman, BSc 22-25. Next, best sports person, swimming, women category, Swarali Gore, BSc 20-25. Next, best athlete overall, Ravish Vishnu, SY 23-27. Next, squash player of the year, main category, Dhruv Kapoor, 20-25. Next, woman category, Avni, SY 23-27. Next, best chess player overall, Sujanveer from FY 24-28. Next, table tennis player of the year, main category, Adit Karandikar, TY 20-25. Next, woman category, Swarda Desai, FY 24-28. Next, volleyball player of the year overall, Amle Prem, MSc FY 24-26. Next, best player cricket overall, Sartaj, 23-27. Next, best taekwondo player overall, Pritika Parsai, BSc SY. Best handball player overall, Himanshu Pillai, SY 23-27. And last, any guesses? Sports person of the year, Laukik. He has 2 awards, basketball player of the year and sports person of the year. Thank you.
Wonderful. It's time to recognize the efforts of the cells and clubs. For the BSc Student Council, the contribution towards institution building And also for the class representatives, for the Council 24-25, I would like to call upon Ms. Vanshika Power to collect the certificate for the Council. You've done a wonderful job as the Council, BSc Council. For the placement cell, I would request Ms. Gauri Jain to come up and collect the certificate for the cell. Good job, Gauri. For MSc Student Council 24-25 and contribution towards institution building, I would request Ms. Samriddhi Ghosh to come up on the stage. Wonderful, Samriddhi. And MSc Council. MSc Placement Cell, may I request Ms. Khushi Sharma to please come? All right, she's not here. Let's move on to EOTY. May I request Mr. Vimarsh Khanna to please come on behalf of EOTY Cell and Mr. Jasraj. EOTY has done a wonderful job this year going across the globe and making a presence. I would also request Vimarsh to please stay back and collect the certificate for Mr. Adiraj Singh Chauhan, who is from SSE and was the third runner-up for EOTY. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Vimarsh. Moving on to Enactus, may I please request Ms. Chia Arora to come forward and collect the certificates? Enactus has been very active throughout the year. For Samarpan, may I request Mr. Nikunj Mohta to please come forth? For ISR, may I request Ms. Ananya Tiwari to come forth, please? Anyone else on the behalf? Please come forth and collect the certificate. For ISR. Good job, ISR. Responsible people. Now for the best library user, the award goes to Miss Ipsita. Is Ipsita over here? Batch 22-25? Yes, she's in the library. Let's move forward. The most exciting Director Special Recognition Award for BSc. It's shared by 3 people. And I would now take this opportunity to introduce and announce Miss Oli Priya, Miss Vanshika Pava, Miss Oli Priya, congratulations. She's been consistently wonderful in performing in both in academics and otherwise. The next Director Special goes to Miss Vanshika Pava. She's contributed throughout the year towards the institution. The third Director Special Award goes to Mr. Himansh Jasoria. He's been the General Secretary as well. Yes, the Outstanding Student of the Year, BSc. And I'll give you a hint. He's also the first ranker of BSc Sem 5. Yes, it's Sridhar Narayan. He's been the research cell co-head. He's been contributing towards EOTY. He's been there in the last council as well. And he's been a really outstanding student in all ways, in all means. Thank you so much. I would now request Dr. Ishita Ghosh to announce the same for MSc.
Batch 2325, I am going to announce the special awards for MSc Economics. These are the Director Special Recognition Awards. I must say that the batch has superseded all previous batches in terms of the number of Director Special Recognition that it is receiving. So a big clap for all of you. The first Director Special Recognition Award at the Masters, batch 2325, goes to Krunal Singh Pardeshi. The next Director Special Recognition Award and the Excellence Award for Institute of Social Responsibility, ISR, goes to Pranati Shah, batch 2325.
Ishika thinks I've suddenly fallen in love with MSc. All right. And there are so many awards, but we have 5 specializations, right? And then when people graduate from here, we have to give equal importance to every specialization. Okay. So this year, we actually had a set of interviews, met people, got the contributions of what they do because I don't teach all the specializations. And then we got inputs from all your colleagues, all your faculty. And thereafter, I think all of you went through a little interview with me, and then it was decided. So it's just that we feel when people leave the footsteps, the gate number 1 of SSE, you cross the common man out there. All award winners have to go there and bow down and then move. Okay, common man statue, right? And that's why we instituted so many awards. All right. Thank you.
The next Director Special Recognition Award goes to Pema. Pema is an international student from Bhutan. A very mature person, very helpful, very attentive. I think Pema has been everyone's favorite. Pema has been everyone's favorite in the batch, juniors and seniors. And the BSc as well, Niharika is saying. The next Director Special Recognition Award goes to Avantikal Reja, international student from Bangladesh. Avantika is a Kathak dancer. She has won us many awards and accolades in intra and intercollegiate events. She is an international trade student, and she has been equally good academically and in terms of extracurriculars. The next Director Special Award goes to Sakshi Deo, batch 2325. Sakshi has cleared her net. Our next award goes to Riddhi Banerjee, International Trade, 2325. Another Director Special Recognition Award goes to Minha Faisal. Batch 23-25. The last award in this category goes to Kanak Joshi, 23-25. She's not here. She's on an internship. She's not here. So let me announce one last award. That's the Outstanding Student of the Year, MSc First Rank, MSc Semester 3 Data Analytics, Aishwarya Dasgupta, 23-25. She is interning at NIUA. Sorry, did I miss? I think I missed out one award. Very sorry. Vidit Vaswani, 23-25, is also not there, is interning in Bombay. Congratulations to all of you. Very, very well done. I would like to invite Jyoti ma'am now to, before that, okay.
Just before that, I've called Ipsita from the library. So she's here. And we would request ma'am and sir to please give her the award. Ipsita, for the best library user who was in library, we've called her back. Thank you. And just one rectification. The Synergy was the best club for BSc. Thank you. Now we would like to invite Jyoti ma'am.
Ma'am has some special announcements to make, so hold your breath.
Where are they? Okay, everybody. Roy explained to you what were the awards given in the past to the distinguished alumni of the year. And we've had, it looks like we've been loving academicians. They've been postdocs, etc. In fact, from this year onwards, we even have a BSc Economics with entrepreneurship. We've had a number of entrepreneurs from here who have graduated, Surbi Jaju, Harish Kedia, but one that is very close to my heart. Of course, they all are, but Vijeta is somebody, you know, from the first batch she went out. I am following her, stalking her on LinkedIn, reading her posts, talking about what she faces every time, when she comes out with a venture, etc. So Vijeta Singh, an accomplished alumni, batch 2009-12, an entrepreneur in India in the food and beverage and hospitality industry. Vijeta, please come on stage. A participant in IIM Bangalore prestigious 10,000 Women's Initiative. Vijeta's journey reflects her passion for innovation and entrepreneurship. You can read this because Vijeta has a little acceptance speech for all of us. So let me not stand in the way. And she's unwell and she's come here today. And last night we actually had dinner at her restaurant, okay? Gathers.
They'll know Elephant and Co.
So they're going to ask you for a 15-20% discount.
Good afternoon, everyone. Please bear with my voice. It's a bit surreal to be standing here today. I graduated from SSE 12 years ago and frankly never imagined to be back like this. Honestly, when I first got the call, my first thought was, me, really? Because like many of us who've been working, we are just mostly doing the work, you know, figuring things out as we go, learning on the job, falling down, getting up again, and really not keeping a score of everything that we accomplish. But being here today reminds me of where it all began. Symbiosis, SSE, wasn't just the place where I studied economics. It was the place where I first learned how to think for myself, where I learned how to ask better questions,
and where I started to see the world not just in terms of numbers and models, but people and possibilities. After SSE, my path wasn't very straight. I tried a few different things, from investment banking to building my own brands to now running a creative strategy agency and owning multiple hospitality businesses in Pune and Goa. None of this was planned for me, but every step taught me something about myself and about the kind of work I wanted to do. What stayed constant was the desire to create something meaningful, to build things that last. Whether it's a brand, a restaurant, or a team, I've always been by the same feeling that I had here as a student, that good ideas with good people can truly change things. I know many of you are aiming for top scores, advanced degrees, and big dreams, and that's amazing. But as you chase those goals, I also hope that you chase some purpose. The world doesn't need more, the world just doesn't need more high achievers. It needs people who care, people who think beyond themselves, who build things that matter, who use their skills not just to rise, but to lift. Whatever path you choose, academia, business, public service, or entrepreneurship, do it with your heart. Stay curious, stay kind, and let your purpose guide your ambition. And that's the kind of success that truly lasts and gives you a good night's sleep. To all my professors and faculty here, thank you for teaching us how to think critically, communicate clearly, and be curious. These are the skills that I still use every single day of my life, far more than anything I memorized for any of the exams. And lastly, to my classmates, some of which are still my friends, they were my first network, my sounding board, and often my cheerleaders. Thank you so much for this recognition, Jyoti ma'am, and the entire faculty. Thank you so much for listening.
All the best. So from alumni of the year, I think we go to the next award, which is number of people have invested a large number of years at SSE. They could be, often there have been full-time people, and now the numbers who are increasing, who have put in more than a decade of experience, is on the rise. One such person, though she's been with SSE for a decade, but I know her for 3, is none other than Ashtesha. Ashtesha, thank you for being a part of SSE. Thank you for being a team out here. Please come up to achieve. Yeah. So Ashtesha, welcome. Continue regardless, hard work, dedication, and helping SSE grow. So Ashlesha doesn't only teach finance. Ashlesha is also a critic. She comes and tells us exactly what she doesn't like, and that's what I love. So remember, all of you, before you leave, you can leave your little suggestion notes for us. Maybe we'll take a couple of them before you, and you'll find this a better place when you come back to get an Alumni Award of the Year, right? So another person who has been with SSE, I know that I've had to pull him back to coming to teach Sagar. You're most welcome here on stage. Your knowledge of taxation, finance, economics, the interdisciplinary entanglement of it all to make it a very meaningful learning journey. Great to have you here, and thank you for taking my calls whenever I call you and coming back to SSE. When you are a visiting faculty, you get a lot of options. But very often it's the institution, the students that you're comfortable with, maybe also the director. So sometimes it's a combination of all of this. And we always make sure, like we know who's going to be teaching you next semester. That's all planned because it's only good teachers that can make a good institution, right? So 3 cheers to my teachers, all right? And Professor Rajiv Sathe, the practitioner, is Rajiv sir here? Okay, but there's this lovely course which was created, multinational corporations, trade laws, and I think, yeah, and laws, multinational corporations, trade and law. And this is exactly where he comes in to teach the trade laws, etc. over here, and a wonderful combination of Ranjan and Rajiv, Ranjan with his academic inputs and Rajiv with his, real life inputs makes the class truly meaningful. Okay, so on that front, we finish with the awards, but there are some special awards, This is from my end. So I think 5 minutes more. Selim, you're a good friend. You're going to bear with me. I'll give you good lunch after this, and then we'll have good coffee also. So I think, is Tarun here? Where's Tarun? Tarun and Varun, please come up on stage. They need to get an award for coping with me. All right? They are the QIC heads. My Karan Arjun, as I call it. All right? Without them, I would be totally incomplete. I fire them, but they come back and tell me exactly what they want to say. Thank you so much. And I'm saying this in front of everybody. Okay. Yeah, no. I cope with you. No, I think really a great contribution, whether the IT is not in place, whether the boards are not wipeable. I mean, Tarun will even talk about the cup of tea which he's not happy with. And I love it because only when stakeholders are satisfied do you have a good institution. So how do we get from great to excellent, right? So I'm assuming we are great and we're moving towards excellence. So great journey. Thank you so much for being honest and continue regardless. There is another very critical aspect in college. Every year, every semester, you have examinations, they keep going on. And there is this one lady who's handling it with her team, of course, very quietly working, doesn't even show that, oh my God, I'm spending so much of time on the examination department. But it's none other than Deepa Gupta. Deepa, your support is so well appreciated. Is so well appreciated because your examination department has to be sacrosanct. And even when I have to take a decision, I ask her, "Aap kya bol rahe ho?" And then she tells me, then I ring up the COE, the controller of examination. We map everything together to see that nobody should be able to say that there are unfair practices, etc. So we like to show that everything is in order. I think my actuarial students also know that their timetable was adjusted because of their exams, right? So Deepa, thank you so much for your support and the backbone in a different way. That doesn't mean, as I said, I have a cricket team of 5 teams. The IPL is going on. But here we have 5 teams working together at SSE. So thank you, Deepa. Thank you. On another note, there are two people who cope with me all the time. As I said, I really make myself sound like a difficult person. Niharika and Ishita, please come on stage. Niharika, thank you for taking over the program in charge at a most difficult time in 2021 when we needed it the most, just in the post-COVID period. I think I want to place on record my sincere gratitude to you. I know we don't agree on everything, which we are not supposed to as social scientists, but thank you for being there. And we know that we can disagree and go back the next day and continue from where we left. She's very enthusiastic, very capable, a good teacher, a good researcher, a good project manager, and I can say ditto for Ishita. And Ishita has done this for a very, very long time. Every year she comes back and says, ma'am, koi hai, mujhe relieve kar do. The very fact that she's unique and she's managing it so well, a big round of applause for both of them, because they are there doing a job so wonderfully. Things only come to me when they go out of hand, and very often they come to me with a solution also. So thank you so much, Niharika. Thank you so much, Ishita. I know it's a bouquet, but a letter of appreciation will come in soon.
Thank you so much, ma'am and sir, for bearing with us. I'll close this PPT. No more PPTs. Just a heartfelt thank you to all of you for being so patient, being such a nice audience. One last announcement, which I think you will appreciate, because this present council has signed off. The post and the position cannot remain vacant. We've already taken interviews with ma'am's permission. We have taken interviews for the selection of the next academic year's core council. So may I also invite Tarun on stage, please, to announce the next core council, the next BSc core council, so that we can officially end this annual day on a good note.
You want to announce?
Do the honors.
So the president of the new council is going to be Anshika Nair.
Please keep coming on stage quickly. Ms. Anshika Nair, the next BSc president. The next vice president is Rajveer Wadhwa. The cultural coordinator, a new post that we have introduced this year, is Shivansh Sachdeva. For treasurer, we have Shambhavi Gupta. With ma'am's permission, may we then hand over this council for the next year, because already the council has signed off. So we present to you the next BSc council. All the best to all of you. All the best. Thank you so much. Thank you, audience. Thank you, ma'am and sir. Thank you, everyone, for staying with us so patiently. With this, we sign off and we end our 17th annual day. I request all the students to please move out from the back doors. I request all the faculty and staff. May I please ask everyone to stand back for 1 minute for the national anthem? Please, we'll just quickly play the national anthem. It's a mandate.